Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrie Collins. This is Life Renovations, week 13. We're over the halfway mark, and I want to thank all of you who are keeping up with the lectures. Remember that as long as you keep moving forward, you'll continue to make progress, even if you haven't finished your assignments for the week or done everything that you want to do. Just keep pushing forward. And one message that I got from one of our attendees this week is that she said, as long as she keeps moving forward, she knows that this week is going to be better than last week for her, whether she's gotten her work done or not. So just keep moving forward and keep pushing along. All of these assignments, the meditations, even the worksheets can be done on your own time later. But each week checking in is going to be really good for your progress. So the past few weeks, we've talked a lot about inductive reasoning and how that will bring your dreams into reality. We're going to take it a step further this week by fine-tuning your skills and talking a bit about the importance of practicing. So remember when you were a kid and you had like a fascination with something, a complete obsession about something that you couldn't learn enough about? For me, it was Australia. My best friend and I decided after we'd seen Crocodile Dundee that we were going to move to Australia. We were 10. So when we had library class in school, our first stop was to go to the encyclopedias because we didn't have the internet back then. We'd go to the encyclopedias and we'd read as much as we could about this new place that we were going to make our home. We designed houses and we picked the state and the city. I guess it's not really a state there, but we picked exactly where we were going to move and we were totally obsessed with it. So why Australia? I mean, who knows? But for some reason, I thought it was really intriguing. Could have been the accent, the strange animals, or that the seasons are totally backwards. Basically, any fascination with a strange or a rare fact is the beginning to all the discoveries that come from this sort of induction. A lot of times, we're just curious about things that we don't understand. Through the process of understanding, we become slightly obsessed. And the more we learn, the more obsessed we become. When we allow this process to happen, we become experts in our field. The same was true when I learned to play the piano. One of my big transitional pieces in learning was The Entertainer. I mean, you all know it. It's a song from the movie The Sting, and everybody learns to play it at some point. I'd stopped taking lessons, but I was still playing regularly just for fun. I found a version of The Entertainer that I really wanted to learn, and I pushed my way through it until I could play it really easily. What drove me to learn this song wasn't a teacher or a deadline. It was my own obsessive desire to master it and the curiosity to see if I actually could. So today we're going to talk about 2 ways to become masters of your trade: objective thinking and practice. These 2 tools will propel you forward faster than any other tools I'll teach you in this course. So let's look into both of them. When we start the process of inductive reasoning or like bottom-up logic, we begin exploring deeper into our thoughts than we even thought was possible. An example of what inductive reasoning is from Wikipedia is 100% of biological life forms, 100% of biological life forms that we know of depend on liquid water to exist. Therefore, if we discover a new biological life form, it will probably depend on liquid water to exist. That's kind of what inductive reasoning is. Like, you take what you know, and from that you assume other things. We learn through reason and experience that these discoveries disprove superstitions. For instance, scientists search for water to determine if there is life or if there was life on Mars. So this disproves totally the superstition of Martians. And this seems simple, but even in 1938, which wasn't that long ago, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds caused widespread panic when people actually believed his Martian invasion story was an actual news story. The process of reasoning that proves this wrong, and now we know better, is it comes from something called the Baconian Method. Sir Francis Bacon in his Novus Organum, this is from 1620, suggested that when trying to find something out, you should first find out if it's true, find out when it's not true, and then think of times when it is and isn't true based on certain situations. The Baconian Method brought back the spirit of the great Greek philosophers and challenged people to take on a new means of observation after the Dark Ages. It's kind of pulled us out of that, the Dark Ages, and made us start to think of things in a different way. The beginning of looking at things this different way has led to longer lives, reduced pain, cured disease, helped us increase farming, better boats, stronger bridges. It harnessed electricity. It gave us glasses so we could see. We can get on a plane and travel the globe in one day, and we can now talk face to face with someone on the other end of the world, even explore the depths of the oceans and send telescopes into outer space. The more we think and learn, the more we have to share and the more others can do the same. So the beautiful thing about inductive reasoning is that through the discoveries of one mind and the questions it brings up, others can start a process of their own inductive reasoning. So we have at our fingertips all the information we want and need through the power of the internet now. Through resources like Wikipedia, we can read what experts believe on all subjects, and the research continues because other people contribute to it. Even simpler, when you comment on someone's post on Facebook or on a blog, you're contributing your insight and questions to a group mentality. You have the ability to think and discover, even easier than Newton had when he coined the idea of gravity. When groups come together, more questions are raised, and more facts can come to the surface. But facts are just that, they're facts. They're truthful. Many times when we're thinking of solving a problem, our emotions get involved and fear takes over and we get stuck. So one of the best ways to get out of the spiral of your own mind is to ask yourself, what is true? For instance, it's very easy to get wrapped up in an argument with a coworker. So say someone at work takes credit for your ideas. This happens all the time. Ask yourself, what's the truth? It's possible that that coworker actually believes that they had an integral part in the process. So look into it. What's the truth? Many times we'll think like that person totally has it out for me. That statement is not true. That's a projection. So find facts. Whether figuring out a problem or discovering something new, if we put value on the truth and dismiss things that are not factual, we can continue to move forward in our discovery of all things. So when you come across a person and you feel that like they have some unusual power or super intelligence, you can realize a few things now by just looking at the facts. So first, your misunderstanding of their power comes from one thing. It's just a lack of information. You know the creative power of thought. Their power comes from focus, attention, and attraction. Second, you might say that someone's like divinely inspired, they're a genius or they're a prodigy. But we also know that nothing is supernatural. Every phenomenon is the result of a clear and definite cause, which operates with exact precision. So that's to say, people of power have come into their power consciously or unconsciously by the law of causation. Every effect comes from a clear and definite cause. And third, you might feel like, there may be just some things we shouldn't know, like why somebody's so smart. And there's that word again, it's should. Now the word should and its polar opposite, shouldn't, comes directly from the fear of the unknown. So some of these great people in our world that have figured out really amazing things like Christopher Columbus or Charles Darwin, Galileo, Watt, Fulton, Faraday, all of them, they had to deal with ridicule or persecution for their beliefs. Now imagine if they'd allow fear to come into play in realizing their life's purpose. They pushed forward regardless of what others told them they should or shouldn't do. And when you meet someone of complete greatness, you now have the ability to see the method by which they attained it. You have the ability to reach this greatness yourself if you first have the information you need, second, the realization of the law of causation, and third, don't allow others' opinions to affect your focus. If you don't believe me, next time you meet somebody who you really admire, someone who you would strive to be just like, ask them how they got there and what obstacles have come up. You'll find that these things are always true. They had access to information, some cause sparked the effect, and they kept on track even when they were criticized. The creative power of thought can and will explain every possible condition or experience in your world, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, if you allow it. Your thoughts bring conditions in a direct line with your predominant mental attitude. Fear is a very powerful form of thought, and if we fear disaster, we're bringing disaster into our thought process, and the result will most likely be disaster of some form. Thinking fearfully can reverse many years of hard work and effort. On the other hand, if you think of material wealth, you can have it. But oftentimes we find that once we secure the things that we wanted so bad, the result doesn't have the effect that you wanted. So if your goal, like the bottom line goal, is to buy a fancy car, you might find that the fancy car doesn't give you happiness after all. I had a big goal that I was going to buy cowboy boots. And I went through this whole process. I went to Arizona, I bought cowboy boots. And I thought for sure that once I reached that goal, everything was going to be great because I'd have my boots. You know those boots sit in the top of my closet all the time? I wear them maybe 2-3 times a year, if that even. They don't give me the happiness that I thought they wanted. So regardless of what your mind thinks about the most, it'll create the cause and finally the effect of your thought process. To be truly happy, We need health, strength, good friends, a nice environment, and enough supply not to only take care of what we need, but the comforts and luxuries which we're entitled. Through the past 100 years, our parents and grandparents lived in difficult times like war, depression, and rebuilding. They've taught us to be content with whatever portion we receive, however big or small it is. Now you have the opportunity to realize that you're entitled to the best of everything and to find your happiness. So, yeah, right. That's great, Carrie. I'm entitled to a fancy car, and maybe I really, really want it, but I can't afford it. Remember that the things that you earnestly desire, if they're constructive and creative and you keep fear out of it, will manifest, sometimes in a way that you never saw coming. By realizing your life's purpose, you'll be able to help many people in the world, and through doing so, make plenty of money to be able to afford the fancy car if it's something you really, really want. Remember that the creative force is substance. It's a tangible thing that you can feel when you put two magnets together. The creative force is surrounding you constantly. It's acting on your physical body and it's acting inside of you right now, but it's all one force. That one force is creating change all over the world. You have it inside you. It's the I in you. Remember the I as opposed to the me. When you can see the difference that the I is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, and that it's in you and outside of you, you'll realize that you're entitled to everything the universe has to offer. That's true in theory. But how do we get to the results? So you have to put your knowledge into practice. You can read all sorts of books on something like playing the piano. But until you actually put your fingers on the keys, you haven't started the process of practicing. So whether your greatness comes in knowledge or in a tactful skill, you can't become a true master until you practice. I've found that it takes at least 4 years of good solid practice to get even close to a stage where you can become proficient enough to be called good at something, let alone an expert. Most likely, you've already been exposed to the thing that brings out your life's purpose, and you've spent many years cultivating it. Once you realize that purpose, you want to pursue it with everything you've got. The amount of practice that you put in will reap an equal amount of reward. All you have to do is courageously dedicate your mental process to the task. You'll find that you're happier, you have people surrounding you that support you, and finding focus to continue practicing is not only easy, but brings you more courage and inspiration to continue moving forward. So what does it mean to practice? If you've ever learned an instrument, danced, or played a sport, you know that you could only get better by practicing. When I tell people how I used to teach lessons, about 98% of the time I hear how some person took lessons as a child, but they never practiced. It's no surprise that they can't play the piano now. I mean, come on. I also hear about people whose parents forced them to practice for an hour every day after school without fail, and they're still not all that great at the piano. So let me tell you a little bit about practicing. In his book, The Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell refers to the 10,000 hours rule, which suggests that the key to success is to practice 10,000 hours or 20 hours a week for 10 years. According to this theory, a piano student practicing 5 hours a week, an hour after school every day, would need 40 years to become proficient in the piano. It's just not enough time. When I sat down at the piano as a child, even for fun, I would spend 2 hours a minimum, 7 days a week, which lowers that 40 years down to 14 years. That's tangible. When I decided that playing the piano was my life's purpose, I went at it full force in high school. I was practicing 3 hours a day on my own. I had 2 separate 2-hour lessons each week with a teacher, 2 music classes a day in school, for a total of 35 hours a week of playing the piano or studying music. I used to wake up at 5 in the morning to play scales before school and skipped my lunch break to practice on the grand piano in the auditorium. Now, according to Gladwell's theory, that brings me to a level of success in just under 6 years. Now, prodigies do exist. I've met them, I've taught them. The difference, though, between a normal person like me and you and a prodigy isn't their raw talent. It's their obsession combined with guidance. Now, a prodigy will easily spend 5 to 6 hours a day practicing and love every minute of it. Their parents are always supportive and help guide their practicing. If I'd had that kind of obsession on the piano when I was 4 years old, I would have been playing Liszt by the time I was 10, no problem. Now, many of my adult students got frustrated because they wanted instant gratification. They thought that learning to play the piano would be a way to relax. And it's not. It's hard work for about 5 years, and then you can play to relax. My point here is that anything can be accomplished eventually. If you want to learn any skill, you have to be obsessed enough to put in the time for it, have the right guidance, and have the patience to wait for it to grow. Now, the biggest cause of failure is demanding a certain effect. Now, remember that many things have happened in your life, good and bad, that have gotten you to the place where you are now. Great people have struggled many times and never given up. Michael Jordan was cut from the basketball team his sophomore year of high school. This setback caused him to practice harder and even harder to make the team the next year. While it looks like a failure at the time, the process brought him a work ethic that built him up to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time. The creative power of the universe is omnipresent. It exists in all places at all times, and you don't know what the outcome of every effect will be. It's enough to know that if you strive to become the ideal person you can, realize that setbacks are only tools to help you figure out new ways to reach that ideal. So you keep practicing, you keep moving forward, even in the face of setbacks. Recognize that it makes you stronger and is pulling you closer towards your goal. Remember that your thought is creative, but it won't create anything unless you consciously, systematically, and constructively direct it towards your goal. Thinking without action or effort will lead to absolutely nothing, or even worse, chaos. When you practice in line with your life's purpose, the outcomes are limitless. Remember that everything is drawn to us by the law of love, but what you attract is dependent on your thoughts. You cannot have happy thoughts if you're in an unhappy consciousness. Your consciousness must change, and as it does, the conditions of unhappiness will cease and the conditions of happiness will meet your new requirements. So to get to the place where you want to be, you have to be willing to look for the truth in your thoughts and put effort into them through practice. So this week is all about starting a practice regimen. So first, the practice of thinking truthful thoughts, and second, about practicing your trade to become an expert. In your guided journaling this week, you'll answer some questions to figure out what's true. This is kind of difficult to do, and some questions won't all need to be answered, but it's a way to make you think outside of the box. So I'm going to give you a really simple example based on the questions in the guided journaling. One thing that totally confuses me is that my cat Evie attacks me when I play certain music. It completely baffles me. She flips out if I have opera on, or like if I play Louis Armstrong. Her tail twitches really fast, she runs around like a lunatic, and has actually physically attacked me. She's fine when I play other music, like if I play 80s pop music, she's totally fine. It's no problem if my iPod is plugged into speakers, and it seems to only happening when I'm listening from like my phone speakers or on the television. When I play the piano, she just goes into another room. I would say it's the worst when I'm cooking and she hears Louis Armstrong, and that's some of the times that she's physically lashed out on me. It also happened once when I was watching a football game on my computer in my bedroom. She heard the voices, and when I walked in there, she literally grabbed me by the heels and pulled me so that I wouldn't go in. So there are a couple factors that are the same here. The sound has always been a man's voice coming from low quality speakers. It's also always been a sound that she's not familiar with, like opera, football announcers in my bedroom, or Louis Armstrong's very distinctive voice in my kitchen. The factors that don't affect her are things like music she's heard before, coming from a place that she's used to hearing music from, like the speakers in my bathroom or from my piano. I can learn more by researching cat behavior, especially a noise sensitivity. I can also retest some of the above examples and see if she's more comfortable with them now that she's heard them before. But after doing all this thought process, moving around, where does this leave me now? So I have some more questions, like, do cats have sensory processing disorder, and how do I help her cope with that? I do know for a fact that I'm never playing Louis Armstrong in my kitchen again because she attacks me. So I want you to answer some of these same questions this week to help you bring insight and open up more questions to lead you to even further discoveries. Now, mine was simple. It's my cat. But what if I wanted to cure cancer? I could kind of go through the same kind of questions if I had the right research for it. Now, the way that we walk through this is this basic the Baconian Method that I was talking about earlier. First, you'll choose something that really confuses you. and then write out a list of all the times when that happens. Write out a list of all the times when it doesn't happen. And then you take your first list when things, when it happens, and list list a degree as to how far or how extreme it is for each one. What factors contribute to the occurrence in the first list but don't affect the occurrences in the second list? And write just a little bit about the factors that contribute to this crazy phenomenon that confuses you. Write about some of the factors that don't contribute to the phenomenon. How can you find out more about these factors, and how will that help you understand more? And then finally, what are you still curious about? What new questions do you have? And you can start the whole process over again. And this helps you come to some pretty clear realizations really fast. It makes you really think outside of the box. And like I said before, some of these questions are going to be a little too extreme for some, for some problems. So you don't have to answer all the questions, but to start getting into the process of asking you, like, when does this happen and when does this not happen, and why are they not the same? Then you can start to ask new questions and learn new things. All right? The next thing, I want you to get into practicing. I want you to list 3 areas of study that you've excelled at or obsessively focused on in your lifetime that you would like to learn more about. Like for me, you guys have heard about, I was obsessed with bike racing, obviously with the piano, and also now Australia. So those are 3 things that I was obsessed about at some point in my life. Now, which of these 3 topics would bring you the most happiness and pull you closer towards your goal, if any? Or if you have anything right now that, those all happened when I was 10 years old. If I had anything right now, what would give me the most happiness and pull me closer to my goal? And then what are the first thoughts that come to your head about pursuing a career in that area, or that would keep you from pursuing a career in that area? And then take a second and turn those fears into courageous affirmations. Remember, fear is the sand in the gas tank. You don't want it. So how can you turn that around and remove that fear? Then I want you to list 10 methods that you could use to practice to become better, or to become an expert in that area. 10 methods. I mean, playing the piano, that's one thing, but I can't just say, well, I'm going to sit down every day and practice the piano. Come up with 10 different ways that you could practice to become better at your trade. And then I want you to pick the best method and get started practicing your skill today, even if it's just a few minutes at a time. Every day, work on practicing in that exact method. If you find that the method begins to bore you, you're not excited, you don't feel obsessed about it anymore, then you have 9 other options to choose from. So pick another method from your list and keep moving. The important thing is to stay focused on the goal. The actual practice method can change, and it should, otherwise you're going to get burnt out. But remember that the more you practice, the faster you'll achieve success in your goal. Be realistic about your expectations for success. You can practice a small amount of time, but remember that the outcome will reflect the amount of time that you put in. Now, your meditation is really simple this week, and you could probably just sit and do it one day. You don't have to do it every day unless you really feel like it. Take your chair like before, relax all your muscles, get into the silence, and then focus on these words. These are from Benjamin Franklin. Increase in me that wisdom which discovers my truest interest. Strengthen my resolution to perform that which wisdom dictates. So I'm going to, let me see if I can copy that and put that in the chat so that you have it. It's also in your journal so that you can, there you go, so that you can see it. So again, increase in me that wisdom which discovers my truest interest. Strengthen my resolution to perform that which wisdom dictates. Now, what I want you to do when you're meditating is really think and focus on this small paragraph and think about what it means to you. What is your truest interest? What is the wisdom? How will you strengthen your resolution? Now, I'm not going to go into this any further. That's the point of the meditation. I know what it means to me. It doesn't matter to you what it means to me. I want you to discover what it means to you. And I have this on note cards, and when I'm reading a book or something, I use it as a bookmark. It's just kind of a reminder to remember that I have a goal and I need to move forward towards it. This week, your body challenge is actually really cool and really fun, and is related to what we're talking about now. I want you to try something completely new with your body. Now, if if your guided journaling leads you into doing something physical, like if you find that you're practicing something like running or dancing or swimming, make that your body challenge. If even playing the piano, that's a physical challenge. It's something that I can do physically. But if the thing that you've chosen to practice doesn't challenge your body in some way, I want you to take a chance and try something new. So many places offer free trials of classes for all different levels. Maybe it's like a ballroom dancing class, or you take martial arts, or like water aerobics, or even you have a yoga class that's always piqued your interest. You could try something that you'd enjoyed in the past, but you don't do anymore. Like you could go golfing or hiking or bike riding. And the important thing this week is just to step out of your comfort zone and try something new. Really see if you can enjoy something that maybe you're a little scared to do. Now that doesn't mean to go skydiving unless that's really on your list, but pick something that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but that you've always wanted to do, and just do it. Now, when picking something, be sure to be true to yourself and what you actually can do. So when doing the exercise, take care to make sure that your body's comfortable and that you're having fun. Don't push yourself. And remember that if your body doesn't like being in pain, you should stay out of it. And now if you try something, like say you go salsa dancing and you find out you hate it, well then never do it again. But you just might find that piece of fun that your life's been missing this entire time. So this new exercise, it can replace your 30-minute walk for the day, but I want you to keep practicing your stretches for sure. Stretching is really important to keeping balance in your body. And actually, if you try something new, you might find that you're going to need to be stretched afterwards to keep your body back in balance. Remember, if you want to become really proficient at something, it's going to take a lot longer than 30 minutes once a week. But your practice time can also consist of reading and studying about your new skill, as long as there is some dedicated practice time. And if you find that it's something you really like, you'll get obsessed enough that you'll want to do it more than once a week. All right? Then moving on to our diet. This week we're going to add just a small bit to our diet, and this one's pretty easy. It's about seeds and nuts. Seeds and nuts are full of all sorts of vitamins and minerals, as well as protein and fiber. But what we're going to talk about today is fatty acids, which are good for your heart, cells, nervous system, and reduce inflammation in the body. Essential fatty acids are needed in important body functions. Omega-3s and omega-6 fatty acids are modified to make molecules that assist in cellular functions and cellular signaling to affect inflammation. Low levels or imbalances between omega-3 and omega-6 is thought to be the cause of many illnesses, including osteoporosis and even depression. By including these essential fatty acids into your diet, you can lower your blood pressure, reduce the risk of stroke, lower the risk of dementia, get relief from ADHD disorder, bipolar disorder, and depression. A great way to get omega-3s and omega-6s in your diets is through nuts and seeds. It's really easy to overindulge in nuts, which are high in fat and salt, depending on how they're prepared. So eat them in moderation. They should be roasted, not salted, and not raw. Some nuts are poisonous raw, like cashews, and you just have to be careful about them. Some of them are great raw, like almonds are good raw. But avoid candied nuts or any flavored nuts because they'll lend towards overeating. A small handful of nuts is totally beneficial to your health, and it makes a really good snack. So to incorporate more nuts into your diet regimen, try some of these things. You're gonna take a handful of sliced almonds or sunflower seeds and put them on your salad. Have a handful of trail mix as a snack. You can put flax seeds on your cereal, or you can include them in your pancake mix. You won't even know they're there. This is my favorite. Put peanut butter or almond butter on celery and put raisins on top. It's called ants on a log. You remember that when you were a kid? It's fantastic. It's a great snack. You can put chopped walnuts in your yogurt and stir it up. It's delicious and it gives a little crunch in your yogurt. This is a fun one. Eat hummus. Hummus is made from garbanzo beans and sesame seeds, and it's great for you. And the last one, now you know how much I love seaweed. There's this stuff called gomaiso. Let me write this one down for you too. Gomaiso. There we go. It's seaweed gomaiso at the health food market. You can buy it at Whole Foods. It's a Japanese condiment. It's made from a little bit of sea salt, sesame seeds, and small bits of seaweed. I use it as a complete salt replacement. It has all the benefits of sesame seed and seaweed, plus it reduces the amount of salt that you need to flavor a dish. So with gomaisu, I will make a pasta dish, very simple, and put roasted sesame oil, some soy sauce, a little bit of ginger and garlic, and gomaisu on top, and it's like, it makes a really good sauce. It's kind of like an Asian inspired pasta dish. You can also put it on steamed vegetables. It's really good on asparagus or broccoli, just as kind of a little flavor enhancer. So it's a good way to get not only your nuts from the sesame seeds, or the seeds, but also a little bit of seaweed too, which is great. So this week might seem pretty simple and short, but I think you'll find that starting a practice routine is a little tricky. So set some time for yourself to gain success in the field that you want. Okay, this is a really great way to get moving forward. You can be an expert in anything you want to be if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. All right, very good. So that's it for this week. We're going to go ahead and log off. Unless anyone wants to stay on for some question and answers, I am here. All right, so if it's time for you to go, we'll see you next week. And if anyone has any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat right now. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle just asked, did you send the survey for the testimonial? I did not. I got a little behind too. You guys can all feel good about being behind because I'm also behind. I was in Los Angeles this weekend, super busy, and took a red eye back and was exhausted. So it was my intent to send it, and I did not. So I will do that this week, hopefully today, and we can extend the offer until next week for you guys to get, the PDF of the first half of class, and also to be in the book. Okay, so I will do that. So no, I didn't. So you didn't miss it, and yeah, we'll get it next time. Michelle says, no pressure. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it. I know. Well, also the other thing, if any of you guys are watching, Gmail is doing something really funny right now where they're filtering emails, and the emails that you guys get for this class is through my email marketing system, and also the emails for the actual class meeting is also through a third party, and I'm a little worried that those emails might get lost. So be sure to look, if you use Gmail, to make sure that you search for anything from me and make sure that you tag that as important, or put it in a special folder, make sure that it doesn't get filtered as a newsletter or anything like that. So be aware if you're using email that has filters on it, that your emails from me may get filtered. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, Therese just said about testimonials. I did get yours, thank you very much. And I was just telling Michelle that I was going to send out a survey and I got a little sidetracked, so I have not sent it out yet. So I will look for that in the future. But I did get yours, so thank you very much. I loved reading that you're eating miso soup every morning. It feels good, doesn't it? Isn't it like the best breakfast ever? Is anyone else doing their miso soup for breakfast? She said, yes, it does. The only problem is I didn't make my own. I bought it from Trader Joe's, and that's totally fine. The one that I had this morning actually is one of those bowls that you pour water in and it's like freeze-dried with noodles. It's so fine. It's really the same. You can make your own. It's cheaper that way, but miso soup's not going to break your bank either. I mean, it's really not that expensive, and it's so easy to make. So actually, my acupuncturist a long time ago told me to just keep the freeze-dried ones, the little packets from Trader Joe's, in my purse, and if I ever felt like a cold was coming on, or that I wasn't feeling very energetic, to just eat the miso soup. That it's like the miracle freeze-dried food in your purse. So that's totally fine. It is kind of cool to make your own though, just to kind of have the experience. Be like, I made it, you know, and the sodium's a little bit less when you make it yourself. It is really good. Yeah, it's the sodium. So yeah, the freeze-dried, typical miso soup doesn't have noodles, but I just bought the ones with noodles because they were there and delicious. A little bit more filling for me in the morning. But I was traveling. I mean, that's the great thing about miso soup too, is that when you're traveling, like I was in Los Angeles in a hotel room with really only access to like one of those little coffee pots, you know, so I could really easily make the soup with just hot water. I mean, it's that simple. It's a good thing. You can travel with it very easily. It's a good option. And how are we doing? Anybody else have any other questions or any other observations? I can't wait to hear what you guys choose to do this week. Anybody have any ideas? What are you gonna do? You gonna go ballroom dancing, rock climbing, swimming? Belly dancing, hot dog. Yeah, I heard that's actually fantastic. People love it. I have a student actually who teaches it, but in California, so I can't hook you guys up. But it's an amazing workout and makes you connect your body in a completely different way because you're moving and jiggling in all different directions. Very, very funny, but awesome. That's cool. I wonder where you can do that. Oh, Trees just logged in. Well, you missed the entire lecture, but that's okay. One of the big challenges, the physical challenge, is to actually do something that you've never done before, or something that you stopped doing a long time ago. So it's kind of fun. It'll be interesting to see what people come up with. Because I've got lots of things I've always wanted to try, and sometimes you're just scared to do it. So this week's kind of your permission, like you have to do it. Go to salsa class. All right, do you guys have any other questions at all? If not, just give me a good to go and we'll move on. Very good. All right. Oh, Teresa says she's doing a 5K obstacle course. Whew. Yeah, that's next Saturday, so that doesn't count as this one. I'm kidding. That would actually totally count. An obstacle course is really exciting. That's cool. And you're probably going to need to be doing your stretches too, so don't forget. That's take care of your body first. But yeah, come up with something fun. Come up with something really fun. Very good. All right, well, I'm going to let you guys get going for the day. I'm going to get going for the day, and I will see you next week at noon.